What is up, miners? Welcome to another episode of the Build a Mine podcast. I'm your host, Trevor, and I'm here with my co-host, Will. So today we have a fun episode. We have the boys from Rosseau Group today. We've got Timmons and Rick. So Rick is the CTO of Rosso. He's the dreamer and the mad scientist. And Timmons is the VP of global deployments. He takes ideas from dreams to reality. So you could say that these two are a pair or a match made in heaven. I'm really excited to get to talk to them about mining, about immersion, and the different things that are involved when you decide that you want to build an immersion mine. They do a lot of different things. Rosso is, they deal with equipment, they do design, deployment, commissioning. Their team has managed data center infrastructure on behalf of Fortune 500 companies and fast-growing startups. They take incredible care of you. And, really, they're just a bunch of really nice guys. We had them on a while. We had Rick on our mastermind group, which I want to tell you guys about. Our mastermind is, the perfect place for beginning miners to get their foot in the door, learn how to build their operations from start to finish. The mastermind group, really takes you from a beginner to a pro, allowing you to understand the ropes and really get a better idea of what it's going to take when you want to build your mine. So if you want project roadmaps, you want detailed guides, detailed descriptions of how to build, from site deployment to hosting contracts, you want to join our deep dives. And weekly we do group accountability sessions so that we keep your foot to the fire and make sure that you're keeping up on your end of the bargain at the end of the day. So if you want to join our mastermind group, go to Bitcoin Mining World or or just scan the QR code there at the bottom of the screen. It'll take you directly to where you need to go. It's a really cool thing. You can see me every single week. I'm in there. I'm always helping out, making sure that the team is getting what they need. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's a fun community of like-minded individuals trying to grow their operations together. So whether you're a beginning miner or you've been in the mining space for a little while, the mastermind community is where you're going to want to go to grow your operations to the next level. All right, well, let's get these boys on the stage. Let's talk to them about some immersion mining. Rick, Timmons, welcome to our Build a Mine podcast. I'm so glad you guys are here with us.
Good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
So real quick, let's just get some introductions out of the way. Timmons, you gave us an excellent, beautiful description of what you do and what your role is. I'd like to see if you can recreate that again.
Yeah, hey, happy to be here. Thank you guys, Trevor, Will, for the invite. We're always excited to be able to kind of share ideas and share our vision for what has gotten us to where we are. We feel like we've made some great strides in the 5 years that Rosso behind the scenes has been working in the last 2 years quite intimately with bringing Rick on and just what that did for our company. My name is Tony Timmons. I'm the Vice President of Global Deployments, as you said, with Rosso. I'm kind of the yin and the yang with respect to what I do with Rick Margerison, and so I'll kind of start there. He is the expert when it comes to all the things immersion. I never try to pretend to cross that line, and I simply wait for the baton to be passed to see to it that his ideas and his imagination gets applied to everyday reality. And so I happily take on that role, and it's a pleasure to be the left arm to the right arm of what Rick provides. I basically am in charge of seeing to it that the site developments are all laid out, that the application for what it is we're doing, whether it's the R1, the R1C, containerized versions, anything that we're doing currently with single phase gets applied in the right setting, in the right environment. Every single place that we deploy is different, and everything has its own, creation and its own, design. But basically, my background lends itself into a number of different roles that obviously none of them have been associated with immersion cooling. But I think it's more of a testimony that if given the right drive and given the right want to and desire to want to succeed, as it is with any business, probably no different with you, Trevor and Will, and the success you guys have had with putting this podcast together. If you have the will and the way and you have the desire, you can get there. And immersion is no different. The different thing about immersion, different than anything else, is it doesn't sleep. Bitcoin doesn't sleep, and it's the only industry that we've ever had in mankind that has been this sort of thing that doesn't have a stock market close at 4 o'clock Eastern time, somewhere in the middle of New York City. Leading up to that, I'm from Texas, and I'm a fifth-generation Texan. I am a former NBA referee, or I formerly ran one of the largest hunting operations in Texas for over 21 years. I've got 369 mountain lion keels to my name, and if that bothers you, then don't come to Texas. But we think Texas is its own country, and then there's 49 other ancillary states that just basically follow in our footsteps, and that's just how it is. With no offense to Canada included, but we think big in Texas, and we don't really stop until we get to what it is we're trying to achieve, and which is why we moved to Rosso from Canada to our DBA, which is in Texas, just so you know, and that's where we operate from. 90% of everything we do that Rick and I put together with the team at Rosso is coming from Texas. And without giving away all our secrets, from our manufacturing, our fabrication, everything else, it's coming from Texas. And so we keep things all in Texas. And like I said, having done the many things I've done, I've started over 26 different companies myself in smaller levels, obviously not to this size and scale, but it's a diversification of the background that I've had, anywhere from an athletic director to a head football and basketball coach. I say assistant football coach, head basketball coach, and the many, many other things that I've done as director of sports officials for the state of Texas, which I was for over 5 years, overseeing 21,000 sports officials in every single sport in Texas, including football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, softball, track, and the rest of them. I've learned how to manage people, and I've learned how to take something that is of a small scale and obviously manipulate that out to state championships that included almost over 40,000 people, being included in our state championships, much different than everybody else's. So being able to manage those type of venues and being able to take ideas and change on the fly and being able to pivot when you know how you need to pivot has been something that's been, I believe, critical to what Rick's ideas bring. Like I said, I can't give Rick enough credit for what he's brought to the table in Rosso 2 years ago, and the ideas that he brings and some of the solutions he provides that may seem simple at the end, but I think you'll hear today when Rick describes some of these things and the transition that I'm sure he'll talk about, being from single phase, two phase, direct to chip and beyond, and where we're going to be with HVCs and just some of the technologies that are coming out so fast. And you have an idea today, unlike in the 2000s and 90s and 80s, that by tomorrow you're already behind. And so being able to pivot quickly in this industry is crucial and key. And Rick does an absolute great job because every time he closes the eyes, he comes up with a new idea. So I'll pass the baton to him, but I just want to let you guys know what a pleasure it is for us to be able to call him today. And we look forward to diving deep. Go ahead, Rick.
And now everybody knows exactly why Tony Timmons happens to be the guy who organizes everything at Rosso when it comes to deployments and the people and the moving parts, because he's capable of doing those 40,000 people at the exact same time. And if you think about a Texas referee, they're always right. So Tony's got to convince everybody that he's right. So I got the right man for the job, and he's absolutely. Sometimes he's not just my left arm, but he's my right arm as well, and I just follow his lead sometimes. So we are an absolute team. There's while I come up with a whole lot of crazy ideas, as you said, he is the person who helps me realize those physical attributes of those dreams and ideas. So my name is Rick Margerison. I am the CTO of Rosseau Immersion. Rosseau Immersion Cooling creates a various different products, with a single phase product with the R1 that starts. It's a larger product. It's not really a home product. Maxes out at 2.8 megawatts in a 27 by 22 foot surface area. Claim to fame we have some number of patents both in single phase and two phase immersion cooling. We have a number of really great individuals. That's not me, who's in the star spotlight of this group. We have some really, really talented people, just like Tony. We have a good handful of those people, and all those people are working really close together in order to make what we can do a reality. And so my background is mostly in the data center x86 space. I've done all the NVIDIA CUDA supercomputer support and the servers, all the stuff that literally like the Texas Tech where the supercomputers are. I did a lot of the support over there. All the data centers for the NAP of Americas, that sort of stuff, for the virtualization and the high performance storage, everything that comes into play. And so I'm a thorough guy. When it comes to dotting my I's and crossing my T's, I've been doing nothing but immersion cooling since 2017, both single phase and two phase immersion cooling. Current density holder for when it comes to putting the most amount of wattage in the least amount of fluid in both single phase and two phase for the world as it is today, which is important because all these things cost money, and when you can reduce those costs, you can make it more affordable for the world. And so, what else do I got? I'm the current immersion requirements lead for something called OCP, the Open Compute Platform, which happens to be the guiding tool for people like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, a lot of the companies that are on there. So I'm the lead for that. Come up to the show and see me talk on stage over in October in San Jose, California, if you like. But what we do at Rosso is something that breaks the rules. We change what people think about immersion cooling when they see our product. We like to make it simple, but it only looks simple, in a lot of ways. There's a lot of science behind it, and that's what we've embraced. We've embraced the science behind immersion cooling, the stratification, the convection, all the stuff that has to do with fluid heating up and things moving forward and backwards, and how it integrates with each other. So that's my background.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I just want to say you both are very intelligent. You speak very clearly, and I appreciate the way that you guys described yourselves. Obviously, you're sending handouts to each other. You work well as a team, and we're really excited to look deeper into Rosseau Group and what they provide to the customers and the clients, and what it really is doing for the Bitcoin mining space overall. We've worked kind of with you guys in the past, and I think that at the end of the day, immersion cooling is one of the coolest types of Bitcoin mining there is. It's not as loud. It's not as in your face. It's very beautiful. It's very put together, and there's a lot of things that can be done with it. As a pleb miner, I'm not even going to sit there and say that I know what it entails getting into a large scale industrial immersion mine, but on a small scale side, I love the way that it looks. I love the heat reuse applications that can be done with it, and I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, guys, I have a question. I think, a lot of our audience is new to mining and very interested in learning about mining. And so would you just, I'll let you guys just rip. Give us a kind of quick breakdown of the differences between these different cooling methodologies and why you chose immersion over the others. Might just be your specialty, or it might just be, some business advantages, or I don't know. But I think a lot of people hear these terms and they don't know the deep differences and distinctions between them. So let us know.
Yeah, let me start off quick, and I'll pass it on to Rick. You'll have most of the answers here, but I want to kind of set the stage on something else. I left off a few things. One of the things, I'm a pilot. I've been a pilot for over 30 years as well. So one of the things that I kind of brought to the table as Rick started putting these ideas together is a level of redundancy. And I think that's something in the industry that was not really ever considered for the most part. I mean, people talked about multiple here, multiple that, but obviously my aviation background gave me an eye for things that need to happen when you don't have what you think happening. And when one engine goes out, where's your second? When two engine goes out, where's your third? And the level of redundancy that I think I was able to help Rick in applying to what he already had as a field of knowledge, as you'll hear just very quickly, I think really adds to what we do at Rosso that separates us from the crowd. Everybody wants to say they have it, but when people show up to our place and they lay eyes on it, especially like what happened here about a week ago when 30 individuals came from all over the world to see us, and they had visited let's just say two of the largest mining operations in Texas prior to coming to us in the same day. So they literally started their tour that morning at 8, gone to somewhere else at 11, went to somewhere else at 1, and ended up ours at 3 as the final operation day. And that was strategically done on my part with the guy who was carrying the tour, because I wanted them to see everything. That's the way it's going to be. And I remind everybody at our deal, as I do everybody in the industry, I have a lot of stories, as Rick will tell you, as many times as I've been in the mountains and all the things that I've done. But I'm reminded of the tortoise and the hare. And in the industry of Bitcoin, you got the tortoise and the hare. And you had some of the people that were the biggest ones in the country, and I get that, running out and the gun sounds. And guess what? When the gun sounds, it's the only time that everybody running the race is on the same line. Because after the gun sounds, nobody in the history of mankind has ever crossed the line at the same point that they left the line. So let's be really clear. I understand the story of the tortoise and the hare. And when you got a lot of money and you need something quick, you run out there and you get it quick. But sometimes quicker is not always better. Sometimes it's better to sit back and see where the mistakes are being made, what can be improved, what needs to be done, so that the bad money that you're throwing at so-called good money doesn't become more bad money. And at Rosso, we may not be the fastest. We may not be the quickest one out of the gate, but our technology doesn't lie. Our numbers don't lie. Our performance doesn't lie. And when you have the things that you're going to hear about Rick talk about in this kind of setting, that understand that the tortoise and the hare has the same ending every single time. And here's a little hint: the hare doesn't win. So Rick, go ahead, but talk about that. You take it from here.
Well, I'm gonna leapfrog from that a little bit, from a tortoise and a hare. But I'm just going to make a statement that it doesn't matter if you run one miner or if you run 100,000 miners. Everybody is on the same playing field when it comes to Bitcoin. And when you run that one miner, or you run a million miners or 100,000 miners, you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and you could be just as profitable using that one miner compared to all the other miners. And so if you're looking at doing immersion cooling, whether it be single phase, open bath, whether it be direct to chip, if it's two-phase immersion cooling, all these cooling mechanisms, they all work. There is a path to the ease of maintenance, the serviceability, the being able to deploy it quickly, the ability to put it inside of a garage, the ability to put it inside of a 700,000 square foot building. All these things are taken into account, and companies like Bitmain, back in the day, they made the S19 liquid cooled model that had those 9 fans on there. I used to actually heat my basement in it back in 2016. That's how I heated my basement, and then I created a bigger thing for doing heat reuse. But there is no wrong in this sort of thing. But when you do the comparison, whether it be direct to chip, two-phase, single phase, or otherwise, there is no wrong. When you compare it to air cooling, if you consider a 24 by 36 inch air duct that has a fan and a filter and everything else, and that same amount of space, that surface area, can be cooled by a 3/4 inch pipe flowing fluid at actually a pretty slow rate. And so when you put it in perspective, when step one, you don't have to worry about filters clogging up, air getting in there, dust, particulates. All these things are not dielectric. They do have electrical conductivity. So when they start to get into your system and things start to fail, they start to cross things, and things start to heat up a little bit because you don't have the proper airflow. The wicking occurs. Wicking being when you have a hair from a hair that gets past there. You have a filter, but you're inside the house, so that hair comes off you, it goes inside of there. That touches 2 of the solder joints, and it's really hot. That wicking is the number 4 failure, the most common failure in the data center today. So as that hair goes across that wicking, which is Trevor mentioned earlier, how that fluid starts to go up that line, it happens with solder as well. So as that hair goes across those 2 lines with solder joints, that solder starts to travel and traverse that hair until it short circuits, blows your miner, and you're done. And
should people in air-cooled farms be wearing hairnets under their hard hats?
I don't know if I'd go that far myself, but
everybody needs to be bald.
But in reality, debris and particulates, which includes hair, are the number 4 failure point in the data center. Fans is number 1. When a fan shuts down, which every air-cooled miner has a fan, that is the number 1 failure for anything in the data center. From a crypto mining standpoint, they got a lot smarter since they started releasing the S17 model. S19 got even better. S21 is even better. Starting at the M20 series back in the day, back in 2017-18, WhatsMiner got on the bandwagon real fast, and they started to shut down things and slow the clock speeds and everything. But being able to throttle down, throttle properly, incredibly important. And so when you take that miner and you take it out of those scenarios where you can have a fan failure, where you can have particulates that are getting inside of there, solder joints, when you turn on and off the system, where you have this thermal cycling where it goes hot, cold, eventually those solder joints, when they're heating and they're heating and cooling, they start to crack. That's also a very high number. I think it's in the top 5 for failure rates, both in ASICs and inside of x86 computers. And so when you remove all that and you take all that and you put it in a fluid, as an example, not including direct to chip. Direct to chip's a different animal altogether. But when you take it and you put it inside that fluid, you're creating an insurance policy. Those hairs, that dust is conductive. When it all floats on top and you have a filtering system that runs over top of it, no matter how insignificant that filtering system is, I've had some pretty shitty systems in back in the day to make sure that stuff doesn't get back into the fluid. But you know what? It worked. I have to date since 2016. I've never blown a single power supply a miner. I've overclocked stuff up to 80% overclocking, starting with the the S19s. Myself and Taylor modding for, which we had on the show on the last one. We've taken a J Pro up to 162 terahash from 104. We've taken the Pro model, which is 110. We've taken that to almost 200. We overclocking and the ability to cool things correctly.
I have a question about the overclocking. Really, I mean, that's incredible. I knew that you could massively overclock these things if you were using immersion, but I didn't know you could do it that high. And that's, is it more with the current landscape of equipment and prices of equipment and so on? Do you think it's maybe more advantageous for folks to, instead of reinvesting in new hardware, invest in immersion systems for their existing hardware and just, get more efficiency and productivity that way? What are the prices and the, the kind of competition between the options like on that?
Well, when you take into consideration that 10% of your power, even on an S19 model, that's some of the newer stuff. When 10% of your power is going to your 3 fans for your power supply and 4 fans for your ASIC, 10% is automatically going to that. So if you could take 10% at 104 terahash, well, now you're running 114 terahash without changing a thing. You did not change your watt per terahash. And at the end of the day, your watt per terahash dictates everything else. And so when a J Pro, as an example, I did a test that ran for 3 months that took 28 J Pros. And I ran them, and I found that an optimized state was somewhere between 125 to 140 terahash, depending on which chip was in those J Pros. I was either A, maintaining that same joule per terahash as OEM, or B, I was beating it by half a point. So instead of doing that 28 watt per terahash, I was at 27.5. Actually, I was 32 at the time. My bad. It was 31.5. And so maintaining, whether you're a single miner or you have that 100,000 miners, it's imperative that you make sure that you control your environmentals. And controlling your environmentals using immersion cooling is so much easier than anything else. The thermal cycling, as I mentioned before, the number 3 reasons that PCBs fail. When you turn off a miner, it doesn't automatically get ambient room temperature. It stays the temperature of the fluid. The fluid allows things to cool down faster. It allows your stuff to run properly. I still have stuff back in Canada where they've been running since 2017 at the S9 L3 level. Never had any problems with them. No failures. When I say I haven't had any power supply failures or anything else, I'm going back that far.
Wow.
Choosing the right fluids, choosing the right configuration, doing what's safe for the miner. Thermals is everything, and that's where immersion really shines.
I know Trevor's got some. Or go ahead, Timmons. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off a couple of things he said. I usually talk about the elephant in the room. That's where my step up is. It's Rick is very delicate to give the very broad deal and the specifics that he does. The elephant in the room is this. Okay, we all can remember on this deal, and maybe Trevor, you're a little bit too young, but I know everybody else I think is okay. There was this thing called regular gasoline that one day we all woke up and our dad said, we're fixing to have to stop using. And I remember laughing at him as a kid, and I was learning to drive. And I got my driver's license when I was 13. Just so you know, I got my pilot's license in less than 30 days, and I've got my IFR. And anyway, my point is this. I didn't believe him then, and it was too early for me to know. But I thought we were probably 5-6 years away. And this thing called regular gasoline that I was putting in my old, Scout 2 International was going to be fine. And within about 2 years, 3 years to most, regular gasoline was done. 3 years ago, Rick will tell you, and we all know where immersion was. And we know the percentage, and it was single digits, just so you know, of the people worldwide that were using immersion cooling in the world. And it was single digits. And here we are 3 years later, and you don't want to know what those numbers are. And I won't say the number because we don't need to. Rick's happy to pass that number on, and he'll pass the deal. But I can tell you this, he knows the number. We all know the number. And immersion is going to be what you're going to use if you're going to be profitable. That's the part that very few people want to talk about because they have so much CapEx already built in to their programs. They can't tell their investors that. They got to figure out a way to make air-driven miners work. I get that. Rick is right. And there's no question that all mining can be successful. But guess what? just like the race, everybody starts from the same line. And I assure you, 10 runners don't cross the finish line the same. So when you want to say, but Tony, our runner crossed the finish line and he was using an air-driven miner, I want to tell you that, yes, you're right. He did cross the finish line, but there's one small problem. 9 other runners beat him to the finish line. So you need to understand where all apples are not an apples and apples comparison. In the state of Texas, we like to say it's apples and semi-trucks. All right. So what we're trying to simply say is this: you can use whatever you want to use, as anybody can. But in the future, technology is going to be key and performance isn't going to lie. And when we say what Rick has done and what he's achieved and how he's achieved it, it's like those 30 guys and the people that came in during our consensus in Austin. And here's something I'll tell you. Some of the simplicity that Rick, doesn't talk about that I do, that I'm most impressed with, because it's a common sense application. When you put a miner in a body of liquid and it's generating heat, here are the facts that you need to understand. When that one miner creates heat in a heat space for my miner, and that liquid is coming past that one single miner, if any of that liquid that enters that cavity crosses another miner, you're losing. You're losing. Any way you want to say it, if I'm transferring heat from a miner to a miner to miner to miner before I evacuate the BTUs associated with that fluid displacement, I am losing performance in our deal. What Rick has come up with is a way to take heat from the bottom of the miner, pass it straight up through the miner, and evacuate it in 6 to 8 seconds. And you say, wait a minute, how does that even work? In 6 to 8 seconds, the fluid entering our performance tanks, all right, that Rick designed, leaves that tank. Now, what does that allow you to do? Well, I'll tell you what it allows you to do. And if you think it's a comparable value, then just please come back on the podcast and come back to you guys. Let me know. We have people that will get on their knees in our deal and stick their cheek to the side of the tank with 40 miners running overclocked at 8,800 watts per miner, stick their cheek to the tank where the miner is and leave it there and not fry their face off. Why? Because if you stick it right there at the bottom of our miner, before what Rick has achieved in his technology and what he's done in his design for that fluid to mix and hit that heat space at the top, whereupon you can't put your cheek at that level, we know that, before and within 8 seconds, that fluid leaves the container only to recycle itself and repeat itself, as you guys well know it. Nobody else in the industry has at least done it. And if anybody's out there that wants to do it and send a video, please do so. All right, prior to going to the emergency room, where I'd love to see that picture. But I think those are the things from a common sense deal that I love to talk about, because it's just so simple. If you're going to cool a miner, then pump the fluid into the miner and get it out of there as quickly as possible. But don't come talk to us about how you're doing something in the field of immersion cooling when you have cavity and fluid space leaving a miner, touching another miner before you decide to leave the fluid from that tank and evacuate that process and say you're doing it right. You're running the race, and you're right. You're going to finish. You're just going to have 9 people in front of you that finished in front of you. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. And I just want to, take the conversation back a little bit. You mentioned, Timmons, that you had guests. You organized a tour of some folks to go around to these other large farms around Texas and see each one before they saw yours. And I'm curious, after they did that and saw yours last, what their takeaways were. Did they share what their feedback was? Like, what was their ultimate takeaway after seeing what you guys have set up?
So I'm going to apologize to your viewership and say that anything we say can be validated. And I wish I would have had all 30 of them standing behind me like a choir, all right, in a church, ready to testify to that comment. All right. But if need to be, we can set it up. And what makes this group so special is they all came from diverse backgrounds, different countries. Not just different states. We're talking different parts of the world that came in there after seeing not what they saw for that day, but seeing cumulatively what they had seen up in their experience before they even saw what they saw that day. And I will quote them with what they said in quotes, that this was the most advanced, right, performance technology in mining immersion that they have seen ever. And they use the word ever. No matter how you want to spell it, it's the same 4 words. Ever. And so we took that as a compliment. But when they were literally able to do the things that I just described, even anybody that's just learning immersion cooling for the first time and trying to understand the technology and how guys like Rick have built this through the years to get it to this point that obviously it hadn't always been. But when you can put your cheek on something and know that you're going to reach 130 degrees in the next 12 and a half to 15 inches, but yet at the bottom where it's coming in, it's achieving that sort of performance standard. then you can imagine, Will, some of the comments they made after they see it, and their jaws are open and their eyes are open and their hands are beside them going, I can't believe what I'm looking at. And when somebody can be told something, that's one thing. But when somebody can be shown something, that's apples and semi-trucks.
Seeing is definitely believing, man. Over in any part of the world, when you can see it and you can feel it, it changes somebody's perspective. I love when guests answer my questions before I can even ask them. You've answered like 7 of my questions already, guys. And no, it's great. I absolutely love it because it makes my job easier. You know, Timmons, you said in the beginning of this that, you know, when you shut your pie hole and you just listen, a lot of times you can learn a whole hell of a lot more. And that's my favorite thing about these conversations. But so I was going to ask you what sets you guys apart from other miners in the space, but you know, we've really gotten that kind of distilled at the end of the day. So you guys do provide host. Go ahead, Rick, please.
I can actually still answer that.
Okay, well then please answer that. What sets you guys apart from other miners in the space, other hosting providers, other large scale industrial setups?
So being in the space that I'm in since you know the early years, 2016, 2017, I've had the luxury or disluxury of working with a lot of different companies, consulting to a lot of companies all around the world as an immersion, you know, consultant, you know, going in, trying to say, okay, this is where you could do an improvement, this is what you could do. And what I see is the various different things that they're doing and how they're trying to accomplish what they're doing in immersion cooling. The reality is, in a tank, you have the ability to control underneath the miner, you have the ability to control above the miner. Everything that happens right in the middle is 100% preparation that happens at the bottom. Everything that happens at the top of the miner, where the heat space is, where all the fluid stratifies, and all because just like air, there's stratification with heat. Heat wants to rise. It always wants to rise. So in an immersion cooling configuration, you have all these companies that have these floors that have holes in them, and all those holes, when you put a miner down on it, when you have a perspective, when you pump a whole bunch of fluid into the bottom of a tank, or you put your finger over top of a garden hose, those holes become jets. And it again becomes even worse when you say, okay, I'm only going to create these holes in this small spot where the miner is. Place this miner exactly right there, and then it's going to work properly. Well, those jets don't allow the dwell time across the chips or the radiators that are sitting on those chips that allow it to remove the heat properly. So as those miners sitting on the perforated floors that everybody's suing each other and everything else, Rosso doesn't do any of that. We have a patented solution that allows us to mix all that fluid so we create the optimal environment for an immersion cooling. And those jets, when you think about it, when you put the miner down, you take the fans off. That means that those chips are about this far away from the floor. So as those jets are firing upwards, all those bottom chips are being missed. They're all heating up. And we don't do that at all. We don't do the flow plates. We don't do perforations in the floor. We don't do any of that. We create the optimal environment where the stratification, the convection, and everything that has to do with the fluid. We don't cool miners technically. We cool the fluid. And the byproduct of a very good outcome is that your whatever is inside of there, whether it be 3,000 watts, 9,000, we've tested all the way up to 13,000 watts in the footprint of an S19. If you did it right, you're going to be able to ensure that BTU that's being created can be evacuated, and you don't have these jets that are firing up past these chips and everything else. And so what makes us different is the way we've done things, a patented way. We have 6 patents just on our single phase system that we do. And it doesn't matter what you throw at that system, it's future proofed, both in the way, both in the size of convection. You know, whether you put one miner, one tank, a 10-foot tank by 3 foot holds 40 miners today that are you know, M56 size from What's Miner. That particular size is about 445 kilowatts in size. A lot of our competition is sitting around the 175 to 200 kilowatts, and when you go beyond that, they're overheating. but we actually have a ceiling that's even higher than that. And so we have not even seen what our tank can do yet, because we haven't seen anybody who's created the density that can actually overcome what our tank does. So when you buy a Rosso system, you're buying something that's not going to last you for a year. You're buying something that's going to last forever. And frankly, a lot of these guys that are on here, they run 1, 4, 10 miners type of thing. I would actually in the future love to actually create a product that also services those guys, because I don't want them to be left out either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love that. I mean, we want to support small miners big time. That's kind of one of our key, ideas that we like to just keep pushing out into the universe, into the Bitcoin universe, is that anyone can mine at any size, do it efficiently, and create useful, the byproducts from mining can become useful to them, heat reuse, etc. And, that's, again, why we want to reach a lot of these aspiring miners, beginner miners.
Right.
And one thing we have planned, I'll just break in here and share with everybody in the audience, in order to invite those aspiring miners or folks who are new to Bitcoin or new to Bitcoin mining, we're putting on the mining conference in Brainerd, Minnesota, September 27th through the 29th this fall. Brainerd, Minnesota is a beautiful location, very family friendly, beautiful vacation destination. And we have the opportunity to host an awesome conference there with a bunch of great speakers, industry leaders, and builders from all over the Bitcoin mining industry. Folks who go to the conference will gain exclusive insights. They can build valuable connections and do professional networking there and really get their foot in the door to kick off their mining journey the right way. Folks who are coming to the conference, we're also putting on our 1-day Bitcoin mining boot camp. Typically, we have 3-day-long boot camps scattered throughout the year. You come to our location and you learn how to repair miners, learn how to set up a mine, all of the important details to kind of get started mining and stay mining efficiently. We are condensing that program into a 1-day crash course the day before the conference. So if you come to the conference and you're interested in that, make sure you plan your travel plans accordingly. It'll be a great event. Don't miss out on that opportunity. So mark your calendars, check out our website, theminingconference.com or bitcoinminingworld.com to learn more and buy tickets. And yeah, we've got another little special, I guess, announcement toward the end of the show for you guys related to the conference. But yes, that's a great opportunity for folks who are interested in kind of, just getting started, or maybe seasoned veterans who can come to the event and share their wealth of knowledge, and hopefully you guys can as well. I know Trevor has more questions, but I just wanted to break in at that moment and share with folks. Make sure you go to theminingconference.com, check out the conference, buy your tickets there.
It was a perfect segue, Will. You do such a great job. That's why I always appreciate having you as my co-host. No, so you guys are really, Rick, you really distilled that information down perfectly. Because my next question is, as a lot of our listeners, a lot of our audience are small time miners. A lot of them host their machines with other companies. And I'm not going to call anybody out here. It's not my job to say who's doing a bad job or, a great job or anything like that. But what I've learned in the past few months, the past while that I've been in the mining space, is that the bar for hosting, the bar for doing a good job and providing a good quality service is really low. And so it sounds like Rosseau Group does a great job of providing, an excellent service and really taking care of their customers. So could you tell us just a little bit about how you manage other people's machines? Do you purchase the machines for them? Do you take their machines from them? What is that situation like? And how could people get in contact with you if they want to host their 1, 5, 10, 100 machines with you guys?
So I'll preface this with the fact that we are talking with a number of different individuals who are those hosting providers that are looking at the Rosso system because they want to satisfy their customers. They want to make sure that they can maintain their systems, service the systems, do all the things that they need to do without shutting things down, and give the performance that they promised. And so we technically don't do a lot of hosting ourselves. That we've had talks about it. We absolutely have considered creating a hosting landing and it's something that's not off the table today. I'll say. I have, I don't want to speak too far down this rabbit hole, but I can say that we absolutely have a software package that we are working on, not only ourselves, but in conjunction with another company that is a really cool company that would allow, anybody who has 1 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 miners to be able to manage, maintain, know exactly what's going on. Allow Rosso and the Rosso affiliates in order to service and maintain and manage all the stuff on our end, whether it be in Germany or Europe or Canada, which I'm from, by the way, Tony. But yeah, that was a dig.
Oh, that's great.
But no, we absolutely haven't taken that off the table. It's not something that we're solely focused on. Right now, we have a fairly new product in its infancy, and so we're really hammering home what we have, and we're working with some really dedicated groups, some really trusted companies that are out there that are giving us the right feedback. One of the things when we created Rosso was we need honest feedback. We need somebody to say, "Hey, Rick, I hate this about your product. I can't stand it. You need to change it." And Tony, I'll let you say the name if you wish, but we have some very trusted people in that space that are doing some decent sized mining that we have relationships with that literally have helped enable us to be better. And we're very thankful for that type of experience, because who are we without the feedback from the people? It's the people that buy the product, and without that feedback, we have nothing. And so we're very grateful for that. And from the hosting side, I think it's going to really help prepare us. It's going to help prepare all those people that are doing the hosting. The people that are doing the hosting are going to help the people that are doing the onesies, fivesies, tensies, and everything else. And I know that was a real roundabout way of maybe answering that particular question, but we're definitely looking at a lot of different avenues, and that happens to be one of them.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Timmons.
No, I just wanted to jump in and just piggyback. Yeah, we become what we try to say who we are is we become, just going back to the pie hole comment, it rings a bell with us, because here's what we do. We're a miner's mining operation. And I don't try to use, catchphrases and stuff, but if they, it's kind of like they say in Texas, if the boot fit, wear it, all right? But it's that sort of thing. We've had people show up to our operations early on, and don't need to get into the names. They know who they are. And they had one goal and one ambition in mind, and that was to show up and see what they could take. Show up and see if what we had was real. Once they validated, knew it was real, they saw it happen. They didn't have any change of any ideas, of any issuance, other than what can we do to see under your skirt? What can we do to see what Rick Margerison has come up with that we can take and that we can go say that we're doing something better? And whereas we listen to the customer, what Rick has done an outstanding job to do, and I think we all at Rosso have done it, we just followed Rick's lead, is we have no ego when it comes to what best ideas win. Because at the end of the day, best ideas win. And in the bad companies, politics win. In our company, best ideas win. Okay, politics don't win. My title means nothing. Rick's title means nothing. If the janitor, after cleaning the bathroom, tells us he has an idea for immersion, we shut our pie hole, we listen, and we test it to see if it works. And if it works, we give that person all the credit in the world, and then we all take the ball across the goal line. I mean, when we were talking about sticking your face up to one of our tanks, and Rick almost giving away the secret sauce, which he won't do, when describing how the magic actually happens in our tanks, and we've had people show up from thousands of miles away just to see if they can find out, wanting to see if they can find out what our solution is without trying to figure out that we're the right people for the job. It's fun to see, because we can sniff them out in 5 minutes and we know what their agenda is about. But when you look at one of our tanks and it's kicking out 330,000 kilowatts of power in one tank, 330,000 kilowatts of power. And then all of a sudden, our new tank, which has almost 700,000 kilowatts of power every state referee, one tank, 80 miners in one tank, and you can put your cheek up to it, and you're overclocking it at 400 plus terahashes. Don't talk to me about apples and apples. All right. Here's what we like to say. He who controls the power at Rosso has the power. All right. Everybody has power. All right. So let me tell you where the finish line is. He who can control the power has the power. All right. So once again, everybody has an on off switch. We get that. Everybody started the race when the gun started. We get that. But when you start putting the numbers together, just like we're talking about with what Rick just said in the industry and what it actually means for somebody in your field that has one miner and they want to do one thing with one miner, they're as important to us at Rosso as the guys that want to brag about having hundreds of megawatts of power, many, many gigawatts of power. We've all heard those stories and with the bees that follow it, and we get all that. But you know, at Rosso, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And in the game of mining, quality wins over quantity every time. Quantity may sound good around a campfire and a bourbon in your hand, but at Rosso, it's about the numbers and it's about what we can do that nobody else can do. And until they do, you're not going to get the secret sauce until you become a partner, because here's the other thing we like to say at Rosso. We're not out for everybody's business. We don't want everybody's business. We're not going to give everybody our business. We're going to find the right customers for the right product that has the right team, and that's who we let cross our finish line. And we will pick our customers at Rosso. We will not open a revolving door hoping to try to sit there and say that we can saturate the market and we can be the biggest numbers out there. We don't want to be the biggest. We just simply want to be the best.
It's beautiful. I love it. And again, Timmons, the way that you explain things, the way that you describe things is very short, sweet, and to the point. And, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why Rosso has been so successful in your guys' endeavors. You guys have a great team put together, and I love it. So a couple of things I've heard about immersion mining is, and, you know, you can tell me when I'm wrong here, is that, you know, you can't just put any machine inside of immersion fluid. Otherwise, you know, you have problems with the heat sinks coming off. You have problems with the thermal paste, you know, mucking up your fluid. You have problems with, you know, all the different types of fluids that are out there. So kind of explain to me how you guys, you don't have to explain, you know, talk about exactly what the product is. You don't talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but what's the process for, you know, putting different machines in there like the S21s? What's the process of dealing with the thermal paste if it breaks down inside of your machine? You know, you said you don't have any failures. You've never had any failures. So what is that like?
So I'm going to preface this to say that this is my experience. And what I can say is that not all immersion cooling, when you buy immersion cooling, is the same. And so what Rosso does is we take the approach. And a lot of people think that, you know, just because you can run fluid faster past a miner, that it's going to cool better. And it's absolutely false. There's conduction, convection, and stratification. Those are the three things inside of the fluid that make the difference. The one of the things that is commonly talked about but not really dedicated in a conversation is fluid compatibility or ASIC compatibility. The fluids that are out there, there are many fluids that you can get. You can buy lots of different fluids. We being part of OCP, being part of material compatibility, and all the fluids, being the collector for the world for all the fluids, and then doing some demonstrations of testing and validation on them. I've been unhappy with it, and so we created our own fluid. We have something called the Rosseau Performance Fluid, which allows us to literally put whatever we want in it. And so a lot of times you'll see these guys, and I heard you talk about wicking, and then, you know, putting a network cable in, and then 2 weeks later you pull it up, and you do this, and the whole jacket breaks. That's on the network cable. I won't name any particular fluids, but I will say that if you take that same cable that when you did this and it broke all to pieces, if you take it and you place it in the Rosseau Performance Fluid, you're going to get some of that flexibility back. And if you leave it in there for a couple of days, you're going to take that same cable and you're going to bend it back, and it's not going to break. So we're going to add that plasticizer back in there, because the synthetic hydrocarbons that are being used today based on all PAO fluids and they attack the plasticizers that are out there. And so people are buying special cables, making special power cables, special network cables, and everything else. Those are band-aids. Making a compatible fluid level is what's really important, because when you're talking about capacitors on the power supplies, people are blowing power supplies a lot of times. On the capacitors, they have an EPDM seal that goes on the bottom. The EPDM eventually starts to wear out on a lot of these fluids and everything else. The failure points of these seals, even Viton seals and pumps. People say, "Oh, my pump is starting to wear out." When no matter what that pump is, they get a Viton seal, and even 2 years later, that Viton seal or mechanical seal starts to fail. It's the fluid. It's the material compatibility. And so at Rosso, one of the things that I said when I got on there is that if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And so we created our own fluid, and it's same cost as everybody else's fluid. It's the additives that go into the fluid to make these things compatible. They don't cost a lot of money, and so our fluids cost the same as everybody else's. And so if you want to, let me rephrase. Let me take it back. If you got the guys who, and I'm not going to say names, if you take that cable and it breaks and it falls apart, you can buy that stuff real cheap. But the flash point on them, they're real low. They can start on fire really easily. They attack all the plastics that are in there. Capacitors, power supplies are blowing. All kinds of stuff goes on with that. And so, I've gone a long way around to answer your question again. I apologize.
Don't apologize. I like the long answers.
That was good. Let me jump here and say this, and to piggyback off that one more time. I think this is important. I mean, without getting into the weeds on this, I think there's another phrase we like to use in Texas, and that's anybody at any level can stick their boot up somebody's butt if they want to, and there's nothing on any four of us can do to stop it. All right. If you want to do it to me, Trevor, I promise you can do it. Will can do the same thing. We can all do it to each other. But here's the one small problem at Rosso: when you stick that foot up there, you're not going to like it. All right. That's the part I can't control. Okay. And I say that to say this: we've had people that have shown up to Rosso, and to piggyback off Rick said, if you've never bought a Ferrari before, all right, let me tell you what happened at a Ferrari dealership. When you show up to buy a Ferrari, you write a check for a Ferrari or you don't buy a Ferrari. And I've never done this before as far as showing up to a Ferrari dealership with my 4 bicycle tires to tell them that I want them to put my bicycle tires on that Ferrari before I agree to buy it. That's called putting somebody's foot up somebody's butt. And that's what doesn't happen at Rosso. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean you can't come to us and buy our Immersion and say, hey, we're going to use our own fluid, Timmons. And I look at him going, stick that foot up there if that's where you want to go. Hey, we're going to use our own cooling system, Timmons. And you guys go for it if that's what you want to do. But here's one small problem. When you start mixing and matching what you think you know better than what the people who are that are designing this thing to perform exactly the way they know it to perform, such as a Ferrari, and those wheels that match that Ferrari make that Ferrari do what it does, and those brakes that are on that Ferrari make that Ferrari do what it's going to do, and that mid level engine that's in the back makes that Ferrari run the way it runs. But yet now you want to stick a Volkswagen engine in it, you want to stick bicycle tires on it, you want to stick an undersized brake caliper on it because you think you know better with your fluid and your cooler. And by the way, that's fine. That's called foot in your butt. But here's the problem. When you get it home and you turn it on and it ain't Rosso, you ain't going to like it. All right. And so I say all that to say that you can do all those things if you want to. But we put everything that you're hearing Rick describe together for a practical purpose, for performance that we know works. When you start mixing and matching it because you think you know better, then here's another advice. Don't use Rosso. Go drive your Ford and tell yourself that you're driving a supercar, but you're not at the end of the day. And that's the way our system works. It's designed to take it from end to end. We don't leave our customers short. We don't give them an A to Y solution while holding out the Z that makes the whole thing be in alphabetic order. That's the way we do this. And here's what we've come up with. We only come up and we're able to explain with what we know works. We don't try to get out over our skis and make promises that we can't support and back up. So I think it's very important, once again, to get back to the quality of what it is we can talk about very intelligently, that we're describing those cables that are in other people's fluid doing what we all know they do, but yet we can even regenerate the same broken cables in our fluid because our fluid was right to start with and not right because you pivoted to it because you thought you had a better idea. We save the industry those kind of decisions that are only bad decisions at the end of the day.
It's decisions like that, that help people save money. When you're building out, 120, 200 megawatt operations. Every single place where you can save money is over the long haul going to save your business, and it's going to make you quote unquote better than the rest of everyone out there. And so I like the way that you put it. I like the way that you explained it. Rosso Systems, you designed everything to work in conjunction with itself, and trying to outsource other things, putting different types of fluids in there, doing different types of solutions is just going to come around and bite you in the ass. So my question is, you kind of mentioned this earlier, Rick. We have a lot of new miners in this audience. How long do you think it'll be till you guys can start developing a system where it's 2, 5, maybe 10 miners inside of a Rosso system?
Well, that remains to be seen. We're kind of running real fast right now with what we're doing with the new products that we're releasing, and so I can't give a timeline to that, but I can say that when we do, it's going to reflect every single ounce of perfection that we're putting into the Rosso 1 and the Rosso 1C, which by the way is the exact same technology, whether it's containerized or indoor. And I know our time's getting up there right now, so before that goes out, for those that are out there, the people that know me or don't know me, I'm on Telegram. I'm under my name. I'm under the Immersion channel that's on there. You can reach out to me directly anytime you want, whether you have one miner or you got a billion miners. I don't care. If you got a question, I'm free to answer. So don't be a stranger. And whatever. If it's a dumb question, well, then I'm going to tell you that there's no such thing as a dumb question. So feel free.
I'll make sure that your Telegram information is in the description, so anybody wants to reach out to you, they can get to you. Now that we are getting to the end of the podcast, I've got a couple of questions that I like to ask anyone. They're a little bit more philosophical, less about mining in particular, and I like to get the answers from people, because the greatest thing about Bitcoin is it's an ecosystem, and an ecosystem you have millions of different people, places, things all coming together for one ethos or two, just different things. And it's great to understand where everyone's coming from. So I'll hand it off to you, Rick, and then I'll let Timmons answer it as well. But I'd like to know, what does Bitcoin mean to you? And if you want to, however you want to take that, just, take it and run.
Well, I got to say, for many years, Bitcoin didn't mean a lot to me. The honest answer. I went through a number of years. I got paid for 2 years straight working for a company out of China, designing Immersion, being paid in Bitcoin. I'd run to my ATM, and I'd get my paycheck, and I'd cash it out for Canadian dollars. But I've realized there's something bigger going on. I was that data center centric guy doing all the AI, HPC stuff. But there's more to this than meets the eye, and I've had a number of good people, companies like Exor and Green Mining Group, and a number of other companies who have really, I'm going to say, educated me, as well as our own people. Our one of our founders, Dan Koff, and Karth, who's our CEO. They've opened my eyes, and so when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm not money centric. And so what does it mean to me? It means freedom to do what you need to do in life. It put food on the table for me and my family. It paid my bills for a long time. But at the end of the day, I think it really represents freedom more than anything. Freedom to do what you want to do and believe in.
It's a beautiful answer. Timmons?
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet. It's not what it means to me. It's what it better mean for everybody on the planet. And that's what it is. It's the greatest transfer of wealth in humankind. Point blank, end of arbitration, discussion, mediation, or debate. It's not up for any of them. It is what it is, whether you like it or not. The same as AI is going to mean to us and every industry that's out there. It's not a matter of what everybody's opinions are. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. I don't sit there and work with a lot of fluff. I'm not here to sit there and listen to everybody's opinion. I'm here to tell you what the facts are going to be. And you can weigh the facts, you can compare the facts, you can test the facts, and you can go out there with any piece of this information and do anything you'd like. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is going to be a part of your life, whether you like it or not, just like AI is. And it's going to be a question of whether or not you're ready for it.
Yeah, there's just some applause for that one, man. I love it, dude. I love it. Short, sweet, to the damn point.
Texas.
Texas. I'm gonna go to Texas one of these days. I swear it's gonna happen. So, that's really, it's really at the end of the day, that's what this show is about, is, distilling all the information down so people can make their own opinions versus, looking at the facts and forming their opinions that way. I really enjoy what we get to do here and all that stuff, and meeting people at the end of the day is what I think is the most important. So, on those lines of meeting people, Will talked about the conference that we have coming up in September. I want to give you guys an opportunity to come out, meet us, and be a part of the mining that is happening at the mining conference. So Rick, Timmons, we're going to give you each 2 tickets to the mining conference, and I'll make sure that happens outside of the show. But we're going to give you one for yourself and then one for a guest, or if you want to do a giveaway. I don't know if you guys are participating in any meetups. It sounds like you guys are more on the mining development and less on the, meeting with people every day, but I don't want to make assumptions. So I'll let you guys do with what you will. And so we're gonna make sure you guys get some tickets to that. Absolutely.
I'll also say I've been to these conferences before, and it's very worthwhile. I suggest everybody go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. We're really excited. The networking opportunities for people, whether you're a beginning miner or you're someone in Rick or Timmons' situation where you've been in mining for a long time, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to meet new people and to find friends. I love what mining and Bitcoin has done for me. Just being able to talk to people who are very knowledgeable in their fields and understand what they're talking about. That's why, Timmons, I love the way that you put everything today, short and sweet. You know what you're talking about. You only put the facts out, and it's awesome. And Rick, you've been very, very eloquent in the way that you say things. So I appreciate you guys coming on today. I'd like to give you guys both a second to plug anything that you want to plug at Rosso, anything that, where you want people to find you at, and anything like that. I'll hand it off to you guys.
And make sure you talk a little bit about, if you can, any new products that you guys have rolling out. It sounds like there's some new stuff on the way, and if you're able to kind of share that, please do so.
Well, we have our Gen 2 version of our R1 product, which is the Rosso 1. Rosso 1 meaning that it's one solution for everything going forward. We have our Gen 2, which Tony had mentioned, that it's our original products, about 350,000 watts of power that it controls, 350 kilowatts. Our Gen 2 is actually almost a smaller footprint than what our original one, which means less fluid, less cost, less everything. That's a 700 kilowatt product per tank. And so we have that. We also have a containerized solution that is a 2 megawatt configuration that we're in the process of doing some final testing right now. That's going to be available to come out right away. And,
can I ask you real quick, what's the size of that container unit?
It's
the physical footprint.
Yeah, it's a standard 53-foot container that you would normally buy.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'd say that the other thing we're going to we're going to have some exciting technology we can't give away at this point. We'll make some announcements and invite we'll call it our circles, and you guys, Trevor, Will, are obviously going to be a part of that. We want to know who our friends are before we release some things that are going to be absolutely just industry disruptors, if we want to just leave it right there. And I'll like I said, I won't speak too big. I understand it's Texas. Rick's smiling ear to ear because he understands what we can't talk about internally. But this is going to be something you literally can't wrap your head around, and you won't be able to even describe it once we open it. And that's all I can tell you. And if I undershoot this at any level, then I'll be the first to buy you a glass of milk. Okay, so I'm just telling you that we have to share with the world here in the very next couple or few months is going to be something that you literally can't even fathom. If I were to tell you on your best day, on the most, you're not going to believe this, and once upon a time kind of description. So I'll leave it at that. And we're going to, we're definitely going to know who our friends are before we get to there. Rosso is going to be an absolutely exclusive immersion cooling operation to this new technology. And it is absolutely the most exciting thing that I promise you, you will not even sleep at night when you first hear about it. And it's going to be that size of stuff. So once again, record this, remember every word I said, and just know that I am telling you that. You can find me at Timmons at Rosso.io. You can also find me at LinkedIn under Tony Timmons. I usually just go by Timmons, and so or any other superlative or profanity that you'd like to place in front of that, either before or after, that anything might have rubbed you wrong. I appreciate you, Trevor and Will, for having us today. We can't be more encouraged and more supportive of what you guys do and what you bring to the industry by bringing this kind of information to people that don't have the luxury of being able to know a small company that we are, at least now, but not to be staying there for much longer. But we do appreciate what you guys are doing and the information you're sharing with your audience. And if ever you need us for anything, or your audience needs us for anything, like I said, feel free to just type our names in there anywhere. You'll find us. We'll be happy to return that messaging. But thank you all today for y'all services.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm super excited about the new stuff and the big new stuff that you have on the way. I can't wait to hear about it. Rick, if you want to give it a little bit of contact info or some links or places that folks can find you and reach out directly to you as well.
Sure. Well, if you want some generalized info, pricing on the system, information on the system, you can always email us at info@Rosso, ROSSEAU.io. If you want to contact me directly, RICK@Rosso.io. That's awesome. I'll also be at the show in Nashville coming up. And
yeah, we're going to see you there.
I'm commonly at a lot of these shows, hanging out, meeting friends, doing that socializing thing. And, don't be a stranger.
No. So, guys, this was the Build a Mind podcast. As always, if you like this episode, please comment, like, subscribe, share it out. We're trying to get the signal out to everybody. We want everybody to know that Rosso is the place to go for your immersion mining equipment. Please hit these guys up. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They're the best in class. They're changing the mining world. They're moving the needle forward. So on Fountain, we want to hear from you guys. We want boosts. We want, if you boost us, we're gonna shout you guys out on the next podcast that we record. So with that, this was the Build a Mind podcast, and we will see you guys next time.
Please note, the Build a Mind podcast provides information for general educational purposes only. This information should not be construed as legal, financial, or investment advice. We do not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information presented, and we encourage you to consult with a professional advisor, legal advisor, and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The Build a Mind podcast and its affiliates are not responsible for any losses incurred as a result of using the information provided.